Every man wants to be healthy. We really do, at least in some point. We want to be healthy until we're in front of the chocolate cake or whatever. We don't want to get out of bed and go exercise. But the thing we want to know is, does our daily eating and long-term health, do they go together? Are they the same? Does it matter? Does it matter what you eat on a Tuesday at lunch to your long-term health? Because your long-term health is long. And then do crazy diets. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they maybe good short-term solutions but hurt you in the long run? A lot of men want to know these things. And you can go online and there's a ton of people telling you to do this, but then don't do this. This is bad. This is good. But what about the science? What about the things that get in there and what's really working for people? Well, today we're digging into this topic with two special guests. We've got Zack Shreier and Vincent Gudenus, and they talk to us about how our daily consumption choices, what we do every day, what we eat, what we don't eat, when we eat, things like that, how that impacts our long-term health. And I think that's something that every man needs to grab a hold of because we have to take responsibility for our health. No one can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. So we're going to dig into Zack and Vincent's story, how they got into this field, what they did, how their own health was impacted by it, and how their health kind of drove them into this area. We talk about the importance of things like sleep, the key vitamins and minerals that you need to keep going, and other practices you can do that can really help your body repair and heal itself for the long term. So check out the show notes for more information about Zack and Vincent. So let's jump into the show.
Welcome to the Confident Man Podcast, empowering men with the confidence they need to live their adventure. Now, here is your host, David Maxwell.
All right, Zack and Vincent, thanks for being at the Confident Man Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Hey, just let's start out. What motivated you guys to kind of get into the area of health and eating and all that? What's kind of the backstory for you guys and why this became a passion of yours?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, I guess we've got two different stories that converge on life stacks. So I can tell you about how I got into health and fitness, and then I'll let Vincent tell a story. So really, for me, it started in sixth grade when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And at that point, I had to kind of be more attentive to my health than most kids have to be. And I was, my diet wasn't perfect and I wasn't doing, much exercise at that point. But I did have to be really sensitive to this sort of balancing act of keeping glucose stable. And that really taught me a lot about the different ways that lifestyle choices affect health, basically continuously. And then I got into running in high school, and that was initially for like insulin sensitivity. Basically, I was doing it as a kind of intervention for diabetes. Also to make friends. It always helps to join a sports team, and I had heard the kids on cross country were pretty nice, so we got really into it. Actually, what I loved about it was that you could really see the investments pay off. Like it's pretty linear, pretty clear exactly how you're doing in running. It's just like how fast you run the mile. And so I loved making that investment into my physical health and performance. And I really thought deeply about how to get better and how to structure my life around that. And then sort of took all that history and passion with me to Williams College, where I met Vincent. And I guess I'll let him share his story, and then we can tell you about where we went from there.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm originally from Austria, Dave, and I've lived a fairly international lifestyle with traveling to different places throughout high school and beyond. And I've learned about different food cultures and have sort of developed an interest in nutrition that way. More recently, I've also started using supplements as a way to really get in the flow of things when I'm in a new place, sort of cut out the noise and perform at a high level, even when I'm context switching a lot. So I've gotten interested in supplements as a result of that.
Okay. So that's interesting. So like the drive to travel kind of pushed you to, okay, instead of showing up and feeling like crap, I can show up and actually bring my A game to whatever I'm doing. It doesn't take me a couple of days to recover.
Yeah, exactly. Of course that's Vincent's story, but even in my sort of like single time zone lifestyle that I'm currently living, I find supplements really help me set state. So I use them to basically, nudge my neurology in the right direction towards motivation, towards focus, clarity, wakefulness. That said, I said nudge. I didn't say force I didn't say overwhelm. I think there are techniques that people use, like, using prescription drugs, for example, where you really make a pretty global switch in neurology, but you end up paying for that. And so, our approach is to basically support optimal functioning rather than to force the body to do something that is really not homeostatic.
Yeah, that makes sense. So talk to me about, it's interesting, both of you come from the angle of almost being more intentional. And I think sometimes men, we have this thing of, well, your health is your health. Whatever it is, it's all genetic. But it sounds like you guys come from that angle of, okay, let's do the best with what we have. You were dealing with diabetes, and okay, what can I do to still be optimal health? And then Vincent, you were traveling, and what can I do? So it sounds like a lot of intentionality that you guys really came across of. Is that true?
100%. I think Vincent and I share a belief that our future is not fixed. There's some fatalism that folks have, and I think there's a bit of it's an import from like the pop physics understanding, like, oh, your future is basically already set. But as it happens, we are the vectors. We are the sort of physical entities that are actually making the future, and so it really is. All physics passes through our actions and our intentions in order to know what the future is. So I really think we're a crucial part of the loop, really, and our lives are made by us. So that said, I mean, depending on the different things that we do every day, we'll have different long-term health consequences. It really, we obviously the mind is made of body in part, and so what you feed yourself and basically all the things that you do to create this health trickles all the way up to the way that you feel on a daily basis and the motivation you have to do the things that you want to do.
There's so many rumors, every day there's a different ad on TV, this is the secret, take this one pill and, your whole life changes. What is it about like daily regular eating habits and things like that you found that's so important for guys to focus on?
Sure. We break it down into a few different categories here. So of course there's essential nutrients. A way of thinking about this is that our bodies are made of parts and the flow of energy. So the things that you're taking in are basically providing these components that your cells are actually made of and providing the fuel substrate that you burn in order to do what you're doing. And so basically what that means is we want to make sure we're having all these necessary components. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to build, healthy tissue going forward. And so people are familiar with protein, for example, as a building block of muscle. Then, of course, there's all the vitamins and minerals that are essential. And there are also a whole category of nutrients that have not yet been considered essential and put on the sort of, nutritional label. But they are food parts that do end up contributing to optimal functioning. And if you lack them, then they contribute to degradation. So things like creatine, for example, are actually found naturally in food. And it turns out you really do actually want creatine from your food in order for your cells to function optimally, not even at the sort of dose ranges that are typical for like bulking and performance, but more like the 1 to 2 gram a day range from food. And that's just one example of like literally dozens of compounds that some of which we've already sort of identified, and some of which probably still are yet to be identified. And so, those are essential components. There's also basically using food to optimize metabolism. So you basically clean fuels that from the right sources can contribute positively to well-functioning mitochondria, well-functioning cells. And then if you eat crap, then your body has to deal with that, and then it creates byproducts. So those two things I think are basically both two essential pieces of the toolkit for how your diet contributes to your long-term health and daily performance. And then maybe the third piece is, and this is mostly something you get from supplementation, you can use the right nutrients to set your state. So people obviously are familiar with caffeine and coffee as one such tool for toggling state, but there are dozens. There are so many different things that you can take on a daily basis or intermittently that support optimal performance by basically, as I said, nudging neurology in the directions that we're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. You talked about creatine. Just recently, I've started seeing a lot more about the positive effects of creatine, where I think for me, I always thought of, like bodybuilders, guys who, want to get their gains on taking creatine, but they're finding a lot more health mentally and different things for people, especially as people get older. That creatine helps you in so many ways. Is that kind of the thing you're talking about with that and other supplements that help you kind of have a better day-to-day life?
Exactly. Yep. And so, from say just a healthy grass-fed steak, for example, you're going to get a bunch of minerals. So you'll get zinc and iron and things like that are essential for building all the different things that are going on in the body. And then you'll also get things that are not currently on the label, like creatine.
Okay.
And so it turns out those components are also very helpful for long-term functioning. They're not the sorts of things that would show up as deficiency in some obvious way, but over time, if you're lacking these very helpful components from the diet, then you won't function at as high level as you could, and it might show up as premature aging eventually.
Okay. So for a guy to think about it as almost like the kind of fuel you put in your car, your engine, the better the fuel, the better the performance. We kind of think of it that way with us. Is that what you mean?
For sure. Yeah. And it's built, you're taking inputs in order to build the car itself and to fuel its operations. And so you have to think of food as holistic in that way. That's, of course, when you burn fuel, you create byproducts also. So you want to burn clean stuff, and you want to structure your life in a way that you're clearing those byproducts as often as possible. So that's good sleep and regular exercise also.
So when it comes to the daily thing, you've got what you take in, and then also you just talked about exercise. That's kind of what you do out. So are those the two? Because those are the ones you always hear about. Eat better and exercise more. Are those the two main ones you're talking about? Guys can focus on to kind of start moving in that direction.
Yeah, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention sleep here also.
That's a good point.
Sleep is crucial just for really giving you the raw materials you need mentally and physically to have a productive day.
Yeah.
I think people get used to people get used to not having enough sleep, and then they think they don't need 7 or 8 hours, but they're actually just getting used to performance deficits. And you'll notice after a few nights of good sleep, you actually perform at a way higher level.
Well, and I've noticed like today, like I go in any convenience store, the racks of the energy drinks is getting larger and larger, and you kind of wonder if people are missing sleep, so the energy drinks are helping them kind of overcompensate. Do you think that's what's going on there?
For sure. Sleep, I think most Americans are not getting the sleep they need.
Since we're on sleep, it's kind of a fascinating subject, because I know, Vincent, when you're traveling, you're going from time zone to time zone. And so that adjustment of sleep and things like that, how did like changing your diet and bringing some of those things help you figure out when to sleep, how to sleep, so you could adjust to the time clock easier? Did it help you in that?
Yeah, I think absolutely. One point I'll throw in here is fasting also. Fasting as a kind of food approach also is a really effective way to structure your nutrition and your day, basically, and something that's very portable across geographies. So it actually helps me a lot to set my circadian rhythm and set my food schedule also to fast when I'm traveling, and adjust my pattern accordingly. And I find myself getting into the right rhythm, and right sleep rhythm, right circadian rhythm much faster that way. So it's a really helpful tool. Okay,
that's fascinating. Okay. I'm gonna be completely selfish here. I'm about to go to South Korea to see my daughter, and so you're jumping major time zone. So you're saying you fast when you travel, like when you're flying and doing. What are you doing to adjust your schedule that way?
Right. So I guess one of the things I like to do is actually love fasting during the flight, because I don't like eating the airplane food too much. So that's
well, that's true.
It's a really convenient hack to be more fat adapted and go for long periods of not eating and still feeling fine.
Yeah.
For long flights. But then I would, Zack and I think of fasting as not so much as a rigid thing, but more of an intuitive thing. So fasting is a hormetic stressor. So it's like exercise in that it stresses your body in a sense. And really, when you get to a new time zone, you don't want to be overly rigid with your fasting period. You actually want to be responsive to your body and its needs as to your energy levels, etc. So usually when I touch down after a long flight, I actually try to have a meal fairly quickly afterwards in order to replenish and get into the rhythm of the place that I'm in. So I guess those are some of the thoughts that I'd have on that.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of guys, when they hear fasting, there's a big term now, intermittent fasting. And what is that? Explain it to our audience, what it is, and kind of how people can maybe make that a part of their life, how much to do, because you hear all these different messages. What have you guys found or seen in the research that's been the best for people?
Sure. Yeah. So, as you mentioned, there's a lot of different types of fasting, a lot of different terms. There's, for example, there's water fast where you're having nothing but water. There is the 5-2 schedule that's pretty popular, where people have 2 days a week when they're pretty significantly calorie restricting to say 500 calories on those 2 days, and then slightly overeating on the other 5 days. And then our favorite form, not that we're too biased, but the one that we both seem to have settled into, is intermittent fasting, where basically for part of the day we're not eating food, and for part of the day we are. It's as simple as that. Everybody already does a very preliminary form of that when they sleep, unless people are waking up in the middle of the night and eating food. Basically, it's to extend the period when you're not taking in any food, so that your body can use the calories that it's already got in store, not only as a substrate so you can burn fat, but also so you can clear up some of the metabolic byproducts that are accumulating. So it's almost like the equivalent of sleep for the brain. Fasting for the body is a way for the cells to basically clear out some like crap that's accumulating. So we tend to stick with tend to fall into like a 16-8 schedule, where we spend 16 hours not eating and 8 hours eating. It's recommended generally to align that with your circadian rhythms, so that you're not eating when it's dark outside, for example. Now, due to the sort of nature of modern life, and we're still in our 20s, and maybe we stay up a little later and wake up a little later sometimes. For us, we might eat an hour or two after the sun's already gone down, and we tend to have our first meal around noon or 1 o'clock. But as Vincent mentioned, it's not rigid. It's really just a lifestyle structure, and a lifestyle that can't accommodate variability is really not much of a lifestyle at all. So we don't hold ourselves to that. It's just a structure that we find to be good for controlling consumption and feeling good.
So you're saying that what the body does during that longer time of not eating, instead of focusing on digestion, it can actually start focusing on other things. Is that why you not eat during that time?
Exactly. Repair. Frankly, you're either taking in calories and your body is spending energy to metabolize those parts and break them down, and then basically store them as fat in most cases, or you've got, and it's not perfectly binary, but when you're fasting, insulin decreases, fatty acids are liberated to be used as fuel, and you're also in some cases actually able to tap into this autophagy mechanism, where the body is taking tissue that's imperfect. So maybe it's somewhat aged or senescent, and actually using that tissue for its raw materials. So it's breaking apart cells that are suboptimal and then repurposing those materials to build new healthy tissue.
So when a person's doing like what you guys say, that like 16-8, during that 16 hours, is it just water? Like if they drink like coffee or tea or something, would that kind of kick their digestion back in? So do they need to just do water during those 16 or what?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are some reasons that somebody might just want water. So if you're doing a religious fast, that might actually be required. And if you really want a full digestive reset where you're not really processing anything, then you would stick with water. But that said, the metabolic benefits that we're talking about, basically this fat burning and this tissue repair, can actually be enhanced by the right substances. Coffee is one of those. So coffee has a slightly thermogenic effect, meaning it's going to help you burn a little more fat. And then it's also got these polyphenols, which are actually used in the body's health defense systems. So just like vegetables, coffee has healthy compounds that actually stimulate these processes of tissue repair. So that's a very common choice for fasting. And then we've also found that the right supplements can enhance the fast without compromising those benefits. So actually, what Vincent and I do now is we're creating supplements that are fasting friendly and even fasting supportive. So we've got a product right now called LifeStax MCT, and this MCT uses a healthy fat that's fasting friendly. It even supports fasting in the sense that it's ketogenic, and it encourages the body to use its own fat as a fuel substrate by basically shifting the body into that fat burning mode. And then we also include a stack of supplements that gives you energy, focus, motivation, and satiety, so that you can just do your stuff without worrying about food, get through your fast. And then, ideally lunchtime rolls around and you haven't even, felt any hunger.
So that's interesting. I saw on your site, the Life Stacks. So that's a supplement to take. Is it like a daily supplement? How does it work with the fasting and when you take it? Do you only take it when you fast, or do you just take it every day and it kind of builds up to where when you fast, it's already in there?
Yeah, fasting for us is a use case. It's not the full picture. So basically, we created this to give you extra willpower and motivation anytime you need it. Now it's not one substance that like pushes your body over the edge. It's many substances that optimize your functioning. And so many different neurological systems get the support they need to make you think clearer and have more energy. And in that way, it's a balanced and repeatable formulation. Unlike certain things like these energy drinks where you're getting 400 milligrams of caffeine and you're going to have this spike and crash and maybe some jitters and racing heart. What we've designed is very wholesome. Things are dosed at the minimum effective dose, so you get what you need, but not an excessive amount. And basically, it's for any time you need that kind of energy or willpower. So we love it for work days, for fasting, for workouts even. And in all those cases, it basically helps to support on the performance side and the long-term health side of things.
Okay. One thing I'll add here, Dave, if I may, is that, Zack and I feel strongly that this trade-off between short-term performance and long-term health is really a false choice. So you can do both with the right substances. You can feel immediate performance benefits now, while also leveling up your baseline over the long run to perform better then.
Yeah, and I like that focus you guys have, where your daily choices can help you that day, but they're not hurting you in the long run. And so I love that aspect of it. So the Life Stacks is one of those, you can take it pretty much whenever, or is it meant to be the only supplement, or does it come into a regimen of supplements depending on what you need?
For us, it's definitely a regimen. And because this our Life Stacks supplement is basically like willpower fuel. It's this stack for cognitive functioning and motivation. But there's other stuff that doesn't have the same sort of acute performance effects, but that still does contribute to long-term health. So Vincent and I both take a multivitamin. We both take fish oil. Actually, I can just talk about what we're doing right now. We love our greens powder. I guess for your audience looking for a relatively inexpensive, high-quality greens powder, there's a company called Paradise Herbs that makes a product called Orac Energy Greens. And I will say, I think this is the product I've probably ordered the most in my life. Since maybe 2012, I've ordered like 50 jars of this stuff. So that's we love that. Fiber as well. Most Americans aren't getting enough fiber. Fiber, sleep, and magnesium are probably the cluster of things that people are the most deficient in. And what fiber actually, it's got benefits that go beyond what people think about. It actually feeds the microbiome, and then basically certain bacteria can metabolize fiber, and they produce short chain fatty acids, which are these really nice clean fuel substrates. So basically, we can't digest fiber, but we can benefit from the metabolites that are created when the bacteria digest the fiber. So we both enjoy fiber, usually before we eat our first meal, because that kind of buffers the glucose spike that occurs after that meal. And let's see, some other things that the audience might find interesting. Well, of course, I encourage everybody to head over to lifestacks.com. Also to check out Nootropics Depot, because they create great single ingredient formulations where you can basically look at any aspect of health and find a supplement that might help to optimize that. So currently I'm enjoying NMN, which is a nicotinamide mononucleotide, which is basically it's an energy substrate for the body that also helps with healing. And then also we're taking Sustanch, which is this like hormone optimizer. So it can boost testosterone and estrogen together. I imagine some members of your audience are interested in test boosters, but what I'd say is there's a concern. If you're boosting testosterone, you might actually lower your estrogen levels, which even though it might not be intuitive, can actually decrease your performance and decrease sexual functioning. And so you want to be careful not to just push testosterone over the edge because you'll end up paying.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of guys see testosterone as this. They've heard the rumors that it's the fountain of youth and stuff like that. So they just try to get as much as possible, thinking it's going to make them, become the Rock or something like that.
You've been listening to the Confident Man Podcast. Click subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. You can connect with David on Facebook and Instagram at David Maxwell. Find resources to help you as a man at theconfidentman.me. That's theconfidentman.me.